Prostrations to Ramana, who shines as the self in all beings. We begin today's satsang with the prayer Muktakatrayam by Sri Nandakumarji. Yes, sir.
Dakshinamurti Sarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ramanacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Parampara Vande Guru Parampara Shuklam Bharadharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyaye Sarvavighnopashantay Vangikam bhuvanam yasya Vachikam sarvavangmayam Aharyam chandrataradi Tam namas satvikam shivam Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Ekam aksharam hridhi nirantaram bhasate swayam likyate katham hridaya kuhara madhye kevalam brahmamatram yaham aham iti sakshat atmarupena bhati hridhi vishamanasa svam Chimvata majjata pavana chalana rodha atmanishto bhavatvam deham mranmaya Jadatmakam aham buddhirna tasyastyato naham tattata bhava shukti samay siddhatma sadbhavata Koham bhavayuta kuto varadhiya drishtatmanishtatmana soham spurtitaya arunachala shivaha Guru Vibhati Swayam सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। नमो रमण।
Namo Ramana. We now have the chanting of Upadesha Sara by Ashwini Balaji and Uma Shripati.
नमो रमण। कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलम् कर्म किं परं कर्म तज्जडम् कृतिमहो दधौ पतनकारणम् फलमशाश्वतम् गतिनिरोधकम् ईश्वरार्पितम् नेच्छया कृतम् चित्तशोधकम् मुक्तिसाधकम् कायवाग्मना कार्यमुत्तमम् पूजनं जप चिन्तनं क्रमात् जगत ईषधी युक्तसेवनम् अष्टमूर्तिभृग्देवपूजनम् उत्तमस्तवादुच्चमङ्गत चित्तजं जप ध्यानमुत्तमम् आज्यधारया स्रोतसा समम् सरलचिन्तनम् विरलतः परम् भेदभावनात् सोऽहमित्यसौ भावनाभिदा पावनीमता भावशून्य सद्भावसुस्थिति भावना बलात् भक्तिरुत्तमा हृत्स्थले मना स्वस्थता क्रिया भक्तियोगबोधाश निश्चितम्। नमो रमण।
Namo Ramana. We now have Ramananjali music by Radha, followed by Pratibha. Radha will be joined in the chorus by Vallabh.
Namo Ramana to all. Today we have selected a song written by Sadhu Swami. It is in the Ragam Mand Setvaditalam. அருளின் தலைவா ரமணேஷா அருளின் தலைவா ரமணேஷா ஆன்மக்கதிரே வாராயோ ஆன்மக்கதிரே வாராயோ காட்டுள் இருளில் கண்மயங்கி காட்டுள் இருளில் கண்மயங்கி கதறுகிறேன் வாராயோ கதறுகிறேன் வாராயோ அருளின் தலைவா ரமணேஷா அருளின் தலைவா ரமணேஷா ஆன்மக்கதிரே வாராயோ ஆன்மக்கதிரே வாராயோ பொழுது விடியும் சூரியனாய் பொழுது விடியும் சூரியனாய் புனிதா வருவாய் வருவாய் என்று புனிதா வருவாய் வருவாய் என்று பகலை காண பேராசைப்பட்டேன் பகலை காண பேராசைப்பட்டேன் பகவான் ரமணா வாராயோ பகவான் ரமணா வாராயோ பகலை காண பேராசைப்பட்டேன் பகலை காண பேராசைப்பட்டேன் ஞான சுடரே வாராயோ ஞான சுடரே வாராயோ அருளின் தலைவா ரமணேஷா அருளின் தலைவா
ரமணேஷா
ஆன்மக்கதிரே வாராயோ ஆன்மக்கதிரே வாராயோ எங்கே எங்கே ஒளி என்றே, எங்கே எங்கே ஒளி என்றே, எங்கும் என்னை இருள் நீக்கி, எங்கும் என்னை இருள் நீக்கி, அங்கே அழைத்து சென்றிடவே, அங்கே அழைத்து சென்றிடவே, அறிவே ரமணா வாராயோ, அறிவே ரமணா வாராயோ, அங்கே அழைத்து சென்றிடவே, அங்கே அழைத்து சென்றிடவே, குருவே ரமணா வாராயோ, குருவே ரமணா வாராயோ, அருளின் தலைவா ரமணேஷா, அருளின் தலைவா ரமணேஷா, ஆன்மக்கதிரே வாராயோ, ஆன்மக்கதிரே வாராயோ, பகலை காண பேராசைப்பட்டேன், பகலை காண பேராசைப்பட்டேன், ஞான சுடரே வாராயோ, ஞான சுடரே வாராயோ, அங்கே அழைத்து சென்றிடவே, அங்கே அழைத்து சென்றிடவே, குருவே ரமணா வாராயோ, குருவே ரமணா வாராயோ, அருளின் தலைவா ரமணேஷா, அருளின் தலைவா ரமணேஷா, ஆன்மக்கதிரே வாராயோ, ஆன்மக்கதிரே வாராயோ, ரமணேஷா ரமணேஷா, ரமணேஷா ரமணேஷா, ரமணேஷா ரமணேஷா, ரமணேஷா ரமணேஷா, ரமணேஷா ரமணேஷா, ரமணேஷா ரமணேஷா. நமோ ரமண.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. As I was pondering as to what to share today, Venkatesh ji sent a very nice message of Shivananda Swami today. Whoever contemplates name as Brahman, that is, whoever regards the subject of meditation as absolute, gains whatever that object includes within its gamut. Whoever contemplates name as Brahman, that is, whoever regards the subject of meditation as absolute, gains whatever that object includes within its gamut. This profound thought is so very well reflected in this song by Sri Sadhu Om. He is telling all spiritual sadhakas, chant joyously and totally envelop oneself with the name Ramana. Why do you turn your mind outwards and fight for this and that? Just hold the name Ramana. It purifies mind and removes all divisions in the mind as I, mine and yours. Continuously chant the name Ramana. It consumes all vasanas and gives jnana drishti to see everything and everyone as Ramana the self. I am singing the Gujarati translation of this song by Jagadish Swami. ज्ञान बालक अलीडाही बाला तू रमणा रमणा बोल बाला, ज्ञान बालक अलीडाही बाला तू रमणा रमणा बोल बाला, आनंदती जपितो नाच बाला, शिव पोते अपना पिताचे प्रिय बाला, आनंदती जपितो नाच बाला, शिव पोते अपना पिताचे प्रिय बाला, ज्ञान बालक अलीडाही बाला तू रमणा रमणा बोल बाला, निर्दोष मन तरुम चेरे बाला, तुंज गुरु मेल्वी उग्री जव पात्र बाला, निर्दोष मन तरुम चेरे बाला, तुंज गुरु मेल्वी उग्री जव पात्र बाला, बीज उमर बाळतय चेरे बाला, नित्य विवाह कार्य करे अली रूढी बाला, बीज उमर बाळतय चेरे बाला, नित्य विवाह कार्य करे अली रूढी बाला, ज्ञान बालक अलीडाही बाला तू रमणा रमणा बोल बाला, मनोनाश साधवा वाचन क्षमाटे જૂની વાસનાને હણવા વિવચ માટે મનોનાશી સાધવા વાચન શા માટે જૂની વાસનાને હણવા વિવચ માટે પુણે મારું રૂપી મિથ્યા કંટા શા માટે આને તાલી ઉભરી જવા સમર્થક બાળા પુણે મારું રૂપી મિથ્યા કંટા શા માટે આને તાલી ઉભરી જવા સમર્થક બાળા જ્ઞાન બાળક અલીરાહી બાળા તું રમણા રમણા બોલ બાળા અરુણાચલ રમણ પિતા ચરણે તું એ દાસે તઈ જાને અલી પ્રિય બાળા અરુણાચલ રમણ પિતા ચરણે તું એ દાસ તઈ જાને અલી પ્રિય બાળા ગુરુજીને તવા મૂળ મંદિરમાં જોતામ રહેવાનું જીવન શીખી જાને બાળા ગુરુજીને તવા મૂળ મંદિરમાં જોતામ રહેવાનું જીવન શીખી જાને બાળા જ્યારે બાળક અલીરાહી બાળા તું રમણા રમણા બોલ બાળા ત્યારે બાળક અલીરાહી બાળા તું રમણા રમણા બોલ બાળા તું રમણા રમણા બોલ બાળા તું રમણા રમણા બોલ બાળા
Namo Ramana. We continue the offerings of Ramananjali music with Savitri and Jai Shri Ram, followed by Revati Shankar.
भूमिनाथ की पावन नगरी तिरुचुड़ी में जन्म हुआ, तिरुचुड़ी में जन्म हुआ। पिता सुंदरम माता अड़ग को शिव जी का ये मिलाद हुआ। पिता सुंदरम माता अड़ग को शिव जी का ये मिलाद हुआ। भूमिनाथ की पावन नगरी तिरुचुड़ी में जन्म हुआ, तिरुचुड़ी में जन्म हुआ। जग जंजाल से मुझे छुड़ाया, दे दिया अवस्था आनंद की। जग जंजाल से मुझे छुड़ाया, दे दिया अवस्था आनंद की। अरुणाचल रूप धारण करके प्रकट हुई माया शिव की, प्रकट हुई माया शिव की। भूमिनाथ की पावन नगरी तिरुचुड़ी में जन्म हुआ, तिरुचुड़ी में जन्म हुआ। शिव शक्ति शिव तत्व जगाने धरती पे मुझको लाया। शिव शक्ति शिव तत्व जगाने धरती पे मुझको लाया। जय अरुणाचल जय शिव शंकर, अरुणाचलम शिव की छाया, अरुणाचलम शिव की छाया। जय अरुणाचल जय शिव शंकर, जय अरुणाचल जय शिव शंकर, जय अरुणाचल जय शिव शंकर, जय अरुणाचल जय शिव शंकर। ओम नमो भगवते शिवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We are meditating on Saddarshanam, and today we are seeing the 8th verse of Saddarshanam. Bhavantu Saddarshana Sadhanani Parasya Namakritibhis Saparyaha Sadvastu Niprapta Tadatma Bhava Nishtaiva Saddarshanamittyavehi. Worship of the Supreme in any name and in any form is an aid for the vision of it. True vision, however, is merging and abiding in the reality. I want to share one of the experiences which Bhagavan gave me this morning as a thought. I choose to do only Bhagavan's work by his grace. and only work related to Bhagavan because I want to be connected to him always. I realize doing this also makes me tired at the end of the day and I want to go to sleep. And this is how Bhagavan connects me to the self. So whatever I do, japa, puja, bhajans are all aids. The compassionate one gives us the experience so that we get back to the self. But since we can't do self-inquiry and we can't merge into the self always, at least I can't, I don't have the strength to do it. It is better to hold on to the Bhagwan's form and name. Since I relate to this body, let me also relate to him with a form and a name. I am presenting a song by Muruganath Swami, a Kannada translation of this song. It's by Sri Shaila, music by L. Vaidyanathan. ಒಂದು ರೂಪ ನಿನದಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದು ನಾಮ ನಿನಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಣುಮಹತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲ ನೀನೇ ರಮಣ. ಒಂದು ರೂಪ ನಿನದಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದು ನಾಮ ನಿನಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಣುಮಹತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲ ನೀನೇ ರಮಣ. ನನ್ನೆದುರಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಹೃದಯವ ಕರಗಿಸಿ, ನನ್ನೆದುರಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಹೃದಯವ ಕರಗಿಸಿ ಆಳುವ ಪ್ರಭುವೇ ದಯಾನಿಧೆ, ನಿನ್ನನ್ನು ಕೈ ತಟ್ಟಿ ಹಾಡುವೆ. ನನ್ನೆದುರಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಹೃದಯವ ಕರಗಿಸಿ ಆಳುವ ಪ್ರಭುವೇ ದಯಾನಿಧೆ, ನಿನ್ನನ್ನು ಕೈ ತಟ್ಟಿ ಹಾಡುವೆ. ಮಾಯಾವಿ ನೀನು ವೆಂಕಟರಮಣ, ಹಣ್ಣಿನ ತೋಟದ ದಾರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಮಾಯಾವಿ ನೀನು ವೆಂಕಟರಮಣ, ಹಣ್ಣಿನ ತೋಟದ ದಾರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ನೀನಿನ ನೋಟದಿ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದೆ, ನೀನಿನ ನೋಟದಿ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದೆ, ಹೃದಯವ ದೋಚಿದೆ ನಿನ ವಶವಾದೆ, ರಮಣ ಕೈ ತಟ್ಟಿ ಹಾಡುವೆ. ನೀನಿನ ನೋಟದಿ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದೆ, ಹೃದಯವ ದೋಚಿದೆ ನಿನ ವಶವಾದೆ, ರಮಣ ಕೈ ತಟ್ಟಿ ಹಾಡುವೆ. ಅಮಿತಾನಂದವು ಅಕ್ಷಯವಾಗಿಹ ವೆಂಕಟರಮಣನೆ ರತ್ನಾಕರನು. ಅಮಿತಾನಂದವು ಅಕ್ಷಯವಾಗಿಹ ವೆಂಕಟರಮಣನೆ ರತ್ನಾಕರನು. ಹೃದಯವ ಹುಡುಕಿದ ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಅಲ್ಲೇ, ಹೃದಯವ ಹುಡುಕಿದ ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಲೀನವಾಯಿತು, ಅದನ್ನೇ ಪಾಡಿ ಹೊಗಳುವೆ, ಕೈ ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಹಾಡುವೆ. ಹೃದಯವ ಹುಡುಕಿದ ಮನಸ್ಸು ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಲೀನವಾಯಿತು, ಅದನ್ನೇ ಪಾಡಿ ಹೊಗಳುವೆ, ಕೈ ತಟ್ಟಿ ಹಾಡುವೆ. ಒಂದು ರೂಪ ನಿನದಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದು ನಾಮ ನಿನಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಣುಮಹತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲ ನೀನೇ ರಮಣ, ನೀನೇ ರಮಣ, ನೀನೇ ರಮಣ. ನಮೋ ರಮಣ.
Namo Ramana. We continue with the book reading, which we have been doing from first meetings with Sri Ramana Maharshi. These are first person accounts edited and compiled by our founder president, Shri A.R. Natarajanji. We continue to read from the account of Walter Kears. The account is entitled Light Itself, Blazing Light. We have seen how he had the Purva Samskaras of spirituality and how he has landed up in ashram before Bhagavan. We continue to read. It was Rhoda McIver who took me to him a few hours later. When I saw him from afar, sitting on a chair in the little passage between his room and the main hall, I started to tremble all over. Not because of nerves or uneasiness, but because of the shock of this confrontation. Here I was, but what on earth could this mean? This transparent thing, and there on that chair, light itself, radiant as I had never seen anything or anyone. Rhoda introduced me to him, and Bhagavan looked at me. He hardly talked, but his face, his presence said, "So, finally you are here." I was invited to sit down among a group of men, my back against the wall opposite him. I looked and looked and looked. Long ago, I had lost all faith, all the belief of my childhood years. No God riding the clouds anymore, no soul for me. And now, suddenly, here light itself, blazing light, going through me like X-rays. Bhagavan seemed at the same time completely unconcerned, looking around, smiling at the squirrels that ran up and down the trees, exchanging a few words with his attendants, dozing off now and then for half a minute, then immediately and fully awake, looking not at you, but into you, casually like one looks into a street, without effort, but seeing in one glance right to the other end, and taking note of all that happens in one glance, and then again rubbing his head with his long fingers. In those days, he came out twice a day, 2 hours in the morning and 2 in the evening, so that we might have his darshan. To me, those first days were the fulfillment of everything I had ever hoped to find. As a matter of fact, it was much more than that. I knew in the most lucid, radiant moments of my heart that it would never have been possible to imagine even a portion of this blazing presence that radiated through everything and took me beyond the phenomenal. On the second or third day, I had to laugh about the absurdity that had been my life before. Who was I to cultivate a garden full of problems? What on earth would have given me the impression that I was so important that I ought to have problems, questions, complicated situations to get out of? Before I knew it, there I was. Before I knew it, there I was in the middle of this who am I sadhana. But now, in his presence, it was entirely different. In this radiant light, it was so evident that I was not a body, not an ego, and that no analysis was needed. This light swept away my darkness in one stroke. Then, after a week or two, an irritation arose in me. I noticed that when I returned to the little house opposite the ashram, which belonged to a Dutch friend, the lucid, blazing light which invariably swept away everything in Bhagavan's presence left me. And when questions did come up, I was quite unable to solve them. So, after a few days, I became rebellious and decided that I was going to have it out with Bhagavan. When I walked in during the afternoon darshan hour, I refused to melt away in his radiance, strong as ever. I simply refused his blessing, and I may say that it was difficult to do so. It was, I discovered, as if you were slapping your own mother in the face. Yet, I desired to be stubborn because it was not an heavenly hour I was in search of, but lasting liberation from ignorance. When I paused in front of him and greeted him in Indian fashion, a quick smile ran across his face, and that was all. I was already at that moment perfectly certain that he was aware of the whole situation, but he paid no attention to it at all. He showered his radiance over all visitors, and every day there were more. As news of his impending departure from us spread rapidly, and many people wanted to see him before he passed away, he rubbed his head, looked at the squirrels, dozed off for a moment, or looked quite indifferently at something or the other, but he paid no attention to me at all. I found a place opposite to him, under the covered passage that in those years ran as along the side of the hall, and sat not very far from where we now find his samadhi. From there, I started my bombardment. I fired thoughts at him with all my might. Bhagavan, of what use is all your radiance to me if I cannot solve my problems the moment I have left you? That was more or less the theme. Bhagavan took no notice. So I concentrated on him even more. And with my thoughts, I began to shake him as if he were a fruit tree. I must have an answer. Then suddenly he looked at me with a smile of utter amazement. What do you want? The smile asked. And then, with a different expression on his face, you are looking for your glasses and they are right on your nose. Suddenly, his eyes emitted light, spat fire, and he looked at me. His look went straight into me, physically into my chest. The heart center, very often felt in his presence, began to get warm, became like hot fire, and then started to spark as if an electric machine was installed next to my heart. I sat straight as a needle, my eyes glued to his drilling fire look. Kill me, I prayed. How long this lasted, I cannot say. It was an event outside of time and space. The moment came when my body could no longer stand the strain. It was as if my chest would explode, and I asked him to let me go. I had received what I had come for, what I came for. This account of the initiation I received from Bhagavan is, of course, only a mere indication. In reality, it was a complete transformation. He gives a German word from Nietzsche, Umvertung aller Werte, as Nietzsche calls it, complete transformation. And all this about hearing Bhagavan's voice, communication in silence, where was clearer than any explanation in words could have been. Yet I still needed words. A few days before Bhagavan's Samadhi, I decided to leave Tiruvannamalai. There were at least 1,000 people. We were allowed to stand in front of the door only for 10 or 20 seconds to see Bhagavan lying on his bed. I thought that he ought to be left alone. Back in Bombay, where I stayed in a friend's flat, I was amazed to discover to what extent changes had occurred. I had been reading Spinoza's Ethics, a very tough book, which I had to chew phrase by phrase. I had left it open on my bed. Now coming back, I picked it up and found that I could read it almost like a novel. This is what we will find with all these spiritual texts. When we follow Who Am I, we will be able to read through them what was very tough to understand. Yet all this was not enough. Although my 2 months with Bhagavan had turned me inside out and upside down, this period had been too short to remove all obstacles, if only for the reason that at the time a number of fundamental questions had not yet arisen and certain mistakes had not been recognized. I had, for instance, very strong yogic tendencies. I could not understand that consciousness did not arise from the Kundalini, but that the Kundalini appeared in consciousness. Where I got this absurd notion from, I cannot tell, but it was only when somebody drew my attention to it that a doubt about this point of view arose in me, weeks after Bhagavan had shed the body. Other questions, new ones, began to tease me. What about this mysterious deep sleep state, for instance? And what was implied in the simple statement that one is ever the witness of thought and not the thinker? Although I was far from satisfied, I did not suffer or worry to the extent I had done in Europe. If Bhagavan had proved a help and certainly as tall as Mount Everest, he would not leave me after shedding the body. So I waited in full confidence, and help came. Some 3 months after his physical departure, a discussion such as I used to have with him in my imagination turned into something that might perhaps be called a vision. Suddenly, I was back in Ramanashramam. I sat opposite to Bhagavan, as I always had during the first weeks of my stay. Again, there were quite a number of people, perhaps 100 or 2. Silently, I wished, "Oh Bhagavan, I wish I were alone with you." Hardly did I think this when the first person stood up, prostrated before Bhagavan and left. Then number 2, 3, and in less than no time, the entire gallery was empty but for Bhagavan and myself. I drew myself to his feet, looked at him and said, "How wonderful to be alone with Bhagavan." Again this smile of his, it always contained the world. It was a shower of light and love, spiced very lightly this time with something like sarcasm to make me aware of my absurd standpoint. He said slowly, taking time to pronounce every syllable clearly, "Are you ever not alone?" Immediately, this Bhagavanish remark made me glow with happiness and recognition. I understood immediately what he meant. I was completely home again. Now, more than 25 years later, I am still sometimes with Bhagavan. I do not mean with him as pure consciousness or Atman, Brahman, but as this typically Bhagavanish presence, with or without form. I am no longer interested in visions or other phenomena of a yogic nature. But when suddenly he is there, in one way or the other, his presence may either bring tears of deep love and emotion to my eyes, or it may make me glow with happiness and make my heart jump into the sky. Such is the radiance from his heart. It is the heart of the world. What he means to me. I am asking myself, what has Bhagavan meant to me, and what does he still mean to me? I find that it is impossible to give a neat answer to this question. The first thing, perhaps, is that he opened up my heart. Immediately when I saw him, even from a distance, I recognized that this was what I had been looking for. When I say that this was radiating, all penetrating, and all overthrowing love, striking me with power of lightning, I know that only those who have had the same experience will know what I mean. To anybody else, all this is verbiage, at best creating an image of someone very magnificent. Well, this is just it. Sri Ramana Maharishi was and is unimaginable and therefore the indescribable. In literature all over the world, one finds magnificent descriptions of sorrow. But who can describe happiness? Happiness is a state without ego and therefore without a someone in it to describe it or even to remember it. What we remember is its afterglow, its reflection in feeling and body, not the moment when we were present as happiness itself, as happiness alone. Ramana Maharshi was not the frail old dying body that I saw reclining on a sofa, but the unimaginable egolessness, pure radiance, and the body, however much we loved its appearance, was merely like a glittering diamond reflecting the light that he really was. I did not understand all this when I first arrived. To me, he was something like a divine person, and I was inclined to compare him with Jesus or Buddha. But Jesus or the Buddha were images in my head, formed on the basis of the belief in which I had been brought up, and on stories heard and read later on. Sri Ramana Maharshi from the first second I saw him, was anything but an image in my head. He was a bomb, exploding the myth of my life until then. Within a few minutes and without a word, his famous, notorious to some, question, "Who am I?" immediately got totally a new color. His famous, notorious question, "Who am I?" notorious to some, he mentions, immediately took on a new color. When self-inquiry we understand is brought to us by Bhagavan's grace. Invariably, each of us practicing self-inquiry will get this understanding that it is Bhagavan himself who has chosen to bless this foolish fellow with the sadhana of who am I. When that realization of his grace is there, then the sadhana takes a totally new flavor, new fragrance. Whatever experience this devotee is describing has happened in Ramanashramam happens to us wherever we are. The moment we understand that it is Bhagavan's grace that has brought us to this sadhana, at that very moment, unlike what he says, we may not understand what he writes. We will understand everything that he writes because it is the same grace that is present even at this moment when we join in Bhagavan's name together in this satsang. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. I request Nandakumarji to continue the self-inquiry session for us today.
Namo Ramana. For our self-inquiry, reading of Bhagavan's Upadesham, I am selecting the verse or talk randomly from Bhagavan. This is a cutting from Sri Ramdas account that is read to Bhagavan from the magazine Vision. This is in talk 456. I am reading the Bhagavan's portion of it. As I remember, Ramdas ji goes out and says that once once you get a fragrance of the self, you should try to be on your own. Like that, Bhagavan is going to tell his remarks on that. This cutting was read out to Sri Bhagavan. He listened and remained silent. He was requested to say if contact with saints could be a danger. Sri Bhagavan then quoted a Tamil stanza which says that contact with the Guru should be kept till Videha Mukti, being disembodied. Again he was asked, where is the Satpurusha? He is within. Then he quoted another stanza meaning, O Master, who has been within me in all my past incarnations, and who manifested as a human being only to speak the language understood by me and lead me. Please bless me. As I was saying in the reading from the book, this understanding that the Guru Krupa, that we are under the umbrella of the Guru, is essential till Videha Mukti, Bhagavan says. When somebody asks Bhagavan, so and so says, no Guru is required. Bhagavan will say, everybody requires a Guru. Then he is asked, who is your Guru? I must have had, why is there not Arunachala? And the self is always the Guru. Now the implication of this is that Vyavahara is in duality. And in this duality, when one represents one experience, the correct way to express it would always be to be under the umbrella of the Guru. That is with Bhagavan's grace that we attain it. Otherwise, it has to be expressed as uh, the mauna or practice of self-inquiry. In the vision article, Ramdas ji says that if one continues under the Guru, then he will be like a plant that is under the shade of a big tree, and the Sishya may not be able to flower. Bhagavan is telling us here that the Guru is the self within, and he has been within us in all our incarnations. And at the right time, he appears in the form of Ramana Bhagavan. At the right time, he appears as who am I in front of us. But all the time, he is within us. And there should always be this understanding that till Videha Mukti, Bhagavan says. Till Videha Mukti means till one is completely free of body attachment. To Bhagavan, Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti are not two different things. If one realizes the self here and now, there is absolutely no raising of any attachment to the body. Till such Vidya Mukti and Jivan Mukti are understood to be the same, Bhagavan says, one should remain under the umbrella of the Sadguru. One should always take umbrage. We see Bhagavan's presence when we join in the morning satsangs, when we join in the evening satsangs, when we chant Upadesha Saram, across thousands of miles, some from US joins, some from England joins. Now all of us are connected by that Ramana Shakti immediately. We are able to feel the presence immediately. All we have to say is Ramana. And Bhagavan is saying here, till one experiences the Videha Mukti, the complete liberation from any bodily attachment, one should understand the blessing of the Guru. One should always be under the umbrella of the Sadguru, and he should know how Sadguru is important in sadhana. That's what we have been trying to tell right through, that the who am I comes by Bhagavan's grace. And Walter Kears also says that his self-enquiry in Bhagavan's presence took on a completely new fragrance. It is embellished by Bhagavan's Shakti. That's why in practicing in the self-enquiry period, we always remember that it is with Bhagavan's grace that we sit in practice. And my own experience is that, though I didn't know this when I started off, I had come to self-enquiry as though it is with my effort I have come. That was the bhavana Bhagavan had allowed me. But while practicing, many times I would lose the strength. There won't be any strength to do, and I will just say Ramana, Ramana, and immediately strength will be there for self-enquiry. Later on, I realized Bhagavan himself had come. Bhagavan himself, just like for Walter Kears, he had given the presence. Bhagavan himself had come and allowed this poor fellow to continue the sadhana. So till the sadhana is complete, till all vasanas are erased, one should be properly related to Bhagavan. Bhagavan is Bhagavan. I had met one of the Swamijis in Ramanashram, Sri Shantananda Puriji. While I was doing Pradakshina, his presence was so strong. He's looking at me. I could see the power of his tapas. So when he was sitting outside, I went and asked him that I could feel the power of your tapas. You are looking at me when I was doing Pradakshina. You must be similar to Bhagavan. He said, no, no, no. That is not possible at all. Bhagavan is the ocean. We are all the lakes or rivers as far as this help to sadhana is concerned. Bhagavan is the ocean. And we, even when we have finished our account, we are still rivers and lakes. And we should always remember Bhagavan's presence as something supreme in the practice of self-enquiry. That's what he also had shared. So we should understand that it is not a tree that is preventing our growth. It is the umbrella of grace that is going to make us flower. And just like in spring, Everything starts beautifully springing into life under Bhagavan's grace as the self. Everything in life starts smiling, everything in life starts sprouting, everything in life becomes full of bliss and joy automatically. So, this proper relationship with Bhagavan is always necessary for completion of sadhana. With those few words, let us sit in Atmaucharam for 10 minutes. In Atmaucharam, whenever a thought arises, Bhagavan says, let how many our thoughts arise, how should it matter? All we have to do is for whom is this thoughts arising and how we should inquire that as each thought arises, one should with diligence inquire for whom is this thought. One should not try to complete the thought with both thoughts. When we ask for whom is this thought, the answer will come, this is for me. Immediately make the quest, who am I? And the mind returns to its source and the thought that rose falls away. With repeated practice, Bhagavan assures the mind gets the ability, the strength to stay at its source. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in self inquiry for 10 minutes. Revatima, you are setting the timer?
Yes, uncle, I'll do it for 10 minutes.
Okay. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We now have the sharing by Sri Venkatesh Deshpandeji.
Vasudevasutam devam kansachanuramardhanam devaki paramanandam krishnam vande jagadgurum. We are doing manana on the Bhagavad Gita Saram, and we have we've finished the ninth verse last week. A quick recap about the ninth verse. A necklace is only a transformation of gold. It is the gold which was its material cause, and it only sustains the form of the necklace. So this is a very important aspect that Bhagwan tells us, that the necklace is only a transformation of the gold. So a necklace is called asat. Why is it asat? Because today it could be a necklace, tomorrow it could be a earring, day after tomorrow it could be a bangle, it could be anything else. So the form of the necklace is asat. Like necklace is a name given to the transformed form of gold. The necklace has no existence as such, it can become something else. So this is an important aspect that we need to look at it. And similarly for human beings, body is just a transformation of the Atman. So Atman sustains the form of the body, and so human body is asat. So last few verses basically we have been talking about Atman or Brahman or consciousness. So the verse 10 is also about that, and we will have Sapna chant that.
Yes, sir. Atha Gita Saraha Yatha Sarvagatam Sauksham Dakasham Nopalipyate Sarvatravasthito Dehe Tathatmanopalipyate Yatha Sarvagatam Saukshmyam Akasham Nopalipyate Sarvatravasthito Dehe Tatatmanopalipyate.
Thank you, Sapna.
Welcome, sir.
So the meaning of this is the all-pervading space, though it is in the contact with varieties of worldly objects, never gets contaminated or tainted with the qualities of the objects because of its subtle nature. In the same way, the self which pervades the entire body never gets affected. So we are doing manana on the object and subject, and the previous speakers also did speak about this. So the space is everywhere and is in close contact with all the objects of the world, which are all contained in it. In spite of this, the differing natures or qualities of the objects, say the fragrance of the flowers, the bad odor, do not get superimposed on the space. The space continues to remain unaffected and pure. In the same way, Atman, which is everywhere in all the bodies of various beings, does not absorb any of the qualities of the body or other objects around it. As we all understand, the body may have signs of old age, disease, foul smell, but none of the attributes touch the Atman, which has no attributes. I will talk about one of the stories, one which between Jadabharata, a realized sage, and a king called Rahugana. When the king taunts the former for his lack of attention and alertness while carrying the king in a palanquin, the sage replied. Basically, Jadabharata was carrying one of the on the shoulders, one of the sides on which the king was sitting, and the king was getting angry that why aren't you paying attention? So his answer to that was the leanness, stoutness, diseases, mental worries, hunger, thirst, fear, quarrel, desire, sleep, anger, all these affect a person who considers the body as a self and thinks that he was born with this body. They do not apply to me who remains as the self and has no body sense. So this is a very important aspect. So in our sadhana is, and that we, Nandkumar also keeps talking about this, is going from the gross to the subtle. For example, today if we look at ourselves, because of our outwardness, we see a man and we see a woman. So what happens? If we generalize this man and woman, we are both living beings. Okay? From living beings, where do you come to? You come to, living beings, we are human beings. Okay? Then what are we? We are body, and then we have the soul. Okay? Then what do we have? We have an object and we have a subject. Okay? So this is the way that we go inwards and we drop all that is coarse, objects are all coarse, and we start going to the more subtle, which is the subject. So similarly, Bhagavan says in the talk 244 that the soul remains always uncontaminated. It is the substratum running through all these three states. In wakefulness, passes off as I am. The dream state also passes off as I am. The sleep state also passes off as I am. They repeat themselves, and yet I am. They are like pictures moving on the screen in a cinema show. They do not affect the screen. This is what Bhagavan says in the talk 244. But what is this I am? This is a very important aspect that all of us have to do sadhana upon. Is I am is a spurana. That there is a feeling of consciousness that we exist. But where is this I am happening? This I am is happening in the now. This is a very, very important thing that in my sadhana, I have realized that this I am is happening in the now. It's not happening 1 second before, or it will not happen 1 second after. So the important thing is this I amness is what is this is the subject. So this, if you look at all the, if you looked at the gentleman that I forgot his name, Michael, or who came to Bhagwan, he had a lot of questions, and all of us, 10 years back when I also went to Ramanashram, I had a lot of questions. We go with an object. We go as the object. We go with the mind. We have lots of questions. But what is Bhagwan trying to tell us? He's saying Summa Ira. He's saying keep quiet. What do we mean by he's saying keep quiet? And he was in silence. He was communicating in silence. This is a very, very important aspect. The best communication you can do is in silence. Why? Because your reality as well as Bhagwan's reality, that's my reality and Bhagwan's reality, is the subject. Now, if I am in the course, if I'm more coarse and I'm in the object, and Bhagwan is saying, he's just saying, hey, listen, go back to your subject. Why are you loitering around with the object and the mind and the world and whatever it is? He's saying, go back to the subject. So if you go to Ramanashram, what happens? Bhagwan keeps quiet. When Bhagwan keeps quiet, you what happens to all your questions? They just die down. Why do they die down? Because he is not fueling any of your questions. He's saying go back to the source. When he's saying go back to the source, that means what? Forget about your body, forget about your mind, forget about the questions that you have. Just be with yourself. And that self is his self. So whether you're in Ramanashramam or whether I'm sitting in Palace Crossroad or whether I'm sitting anywhere else, Bhagwan is there and the subject is there. So, but in this verse of Sri Krishna, whatever he's trying to say is that the subject pervades the object. So the subject, this was another question that a lot of people, including me, have had this question. Is the subject inside the body in the object, or does really the object is within the subject? So one thing that came out clearly is when we believe that God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. When God is what? God is the subject. And if God is omnipresent, he is there inside, outside, everywhere. So then what happens to this object called Venkatesh? The object is actually within the subject. So this is a very important aspect that Bhagwan does when we do self-inquiry. He keeps saying, go back to the subject. So this is I was going back to the example of gold. Gold is made into a necklace, but does not absorb any qualities of the necklace. If it is melted, it gets back to gold. There is no necklace. This is a very important aspect about us as we see ourselves as the object, as well as Bhagwan, who saw himself as the subject. When he saw himself as the subject, he was all pervading. So the necklace, we always consider us to be the necklace with the form. But if you really do self-inquiry, this false notion of you being the necklace sort of slowly vanishes. And then what happens? It's like melting this necklace. When you melt the necklace, what will happen? You'll go back into gold. So that's what happens. So we have to more and more be in the subtle and not in the gross. So in spirituality, another thing I realize, what is important is not what we do. See, everybody, the whole world is talking about what you're doing, but in what you're being is very, very more important. The kurta that I'm wearing is pervaded by what? By cotton. But everybody sees this kurta. Nobody sees the cotton. So we have to get more and more in our sadhana. We have to get more and more subtle. And more subtle means less of the gross and less of our eyes, nose, or going outwards and becoming more antarmukha than being more bahirmukha. So if you love somebody as a body, today what happens? Okay, if somebody passes away with COVID, we feel very, very sad. That person has gone away. But has he gone away? That's a question like Bhagwan used to always ask, were you ever born? So if you contemplate, and you means, when I say you means, it actually means me. If we contemplate on this, we realize that we are not this body, mind, ego complex, which is the object. So more and more we go towards the subject by doing self-inquiry, we will realize that it pervades all the objects. And then this thing about what Bhagwan says, Shri Krishna says in this verse is the all pervading space never gets contaminated. That means the subject never gets contaminated. It's like the screen. All the objects may come, all the objects may go. It really doesn't matter. So more and more we have to do manana on this and go within and feel the presence of God, feel the presence of Ramana within, and be in that uncontaminated, untainted form, so that any objects, anything that comes to us. One more thing, I just one idea came to me is the important thing about this is two aspects. One is you have no expectations of what comes to you. When you are in the subject, whatever objects come outside doesn't matter. Okay. And so you have no expectation. And the second thing is whatever comes to you is okay. It's perfectly okay. So these are two important things where the mind does not come up and you are always with the subject. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Next we have the sharing by Dr. Kalarani Rangaswamy.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. அருணாச்சலமென அகமே நினைப்பவர் அகத்தை வேறறுப்பாய் அருணாச்சலம். Ramana to all. We have been meditating on the Dhyana Pata given to us by Sadhuvam Swami. In the last satsang we saw, I thought is the root cause of all other thoughts. And even in Upadesam Undiyar Bhagavan says, எண்ணங்களே மனம் யாவினும் நான் என்னும் எண்ணமே மூலமாம் உந்திப்பர். So Sadhuvam Swami says, give attention to this thought. What will happen when we give attention to the I thought? It vanishes. Then the question arises, when every thought is getting vanished, what will I become? I won't be doing anything because thoughts are the cause of all our actions. When the thought arises, this person is hurting me, say for example, by his words, we are experiencing a sort of anger and immediately jump into the action and starts hurting him back by showing our anger. But instead, Sadhuvam says, see for whom this anger rises. It is for me. Then who am I? எண்ணம் எழுந்த தருணமே யாருக்கு எழுவதென்று பார். எண்ணம் தனக்கே எழுவதால் இந்த நானார் என்று பார். எண்ணம் தன்னை நோக்கவே. Now the thought is, for an example, say for example, it's anger. When we turn our attention to this anger and examine, there will not be any great special reason for our anger. After some time, there will be no remains of our anger also. I'll tell you an example. Once there was a very short-tempered person. People around him hated him, and he was also not happy with his temperament. He wanted to come out of it. By chance, Bhagavan Buddha came to his village. And knowing the greatness of Buddha, he went to him and prostrated and said, Swami, I am getting angry for small things. I want to come out of it. Buddha said, oh, it's very easy. But one thing you must do is, you must show me your anger. Then I will beat it and drive it out. That is not a problem. I'll come and show you when I get my anger. Because very often he'll be getting angry. He went home. The coffee prepared by his wife was not that much good. He got angry. So he started from his home to show his anger to Buddha. And what happened on his way, he met with one of his school friend after a very long time. They were sharing many things which happened in their school life and had coffee at a coffee shop. When his friend left him, he thought, where am I supposed to go? Oh, to Swamiji, to Buddha. For what? To show my anger. But where is the anger now? After sharing many things of my childhood days with my friend and relishing a nice coffee, the anger actually vanished. But still he met Swamiji. And now Buddha asked, show me your anger. That is your problem, isn't it? This person could not show. This happened not once, but many number of times to him. Then Buddha told him, anger is something which cannot be with you for a long time. So, please give attention to this anger. For that matter, any emotions. I'm just taking anger as an example. So, when we get angry, see for whom this anger is rising. It is for me. Then who am I? Because why we are getting angry? We think we are this body. And if this body or mind gets hurt, physically or mentally, we are angry. Bhagavan says in Ulladu Narpadu, Naam andri naadedhu naadedhu naadungal, Naam udambel naal naattum Naam paduvum, Naam udambo. Is this, am I this body? Only when there is the I thought and think I am only this body, we have the time and space. Nadungal, time and space. But Bhagavan asks us to inquire, am I this body? If one understands I am not this body alone, I am also this body, there is no doubt about it. But we are thinking, I am this body alone. If we understand, I am not this body alone, he will not get affected by anything. Thieves came into ashramam at the early years. When the door was knocked very hardly by the thieves, Bhagavan, knowing that they were thieves, said, I will open the door for you, please don't break it. He opened it and said, there is no much thing here for you to steal, but still you can search. Devotees who were with Bhagavan said, Bhagavan, give us permission, we will beat them and drive them away. Bhagavan said, we are all sadhus. That should not be done. We have to just watch them. Let them do their work. As we have to just watch them only. Thieves could not find anything to steal. And so they got angry and gave nice blows to devotees. Bhagavan also got a blow. Next day when policeman asked, who bet you? Bhagavan said, whom I bet in the last janma, he might have bet me. Who can answer like this? Only by a person who else other than like Bhagavan can undergo an operation without taking anesthesia. Only by such a person can give an answer like that. That is why Sadhuvam says, Parka parka unnulle paramajnanam kukume. When we go on looking onto the thoughts and direct it inward and not taking any action for the thought, just leave it to Bhagavan, paramajnanam kukume. He assures us. In Anmavittai Kirtanai, Bhagavan says, Kanmadi siridum indri Chumma amarndirukka, without doing anything related to tongue, mind or body, when we are calm, Bhagavan says, Amma, ahatil anma jodiye, we can realize the Jyoti Swarupa. Nidanubhudiye. You can always be in the Atmanubhava state. Iradabhidiye. There will be no chance of fear. Inba Ambodiye. It will be full of Ananda and nothing else. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We continue with the satsang with the sharing from Ujjwal Jagdish.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. We are meditating on the verses from Ramana Chatvarimshat, written by Ganapati Muni and compiled by Bhagavan Shri Ramana Maharshi. Ramanena sanatamidam bhuvanam. Ramanena sanatamidam bhuvanam. Chaturena chalendriya nigrahane. Patuna parakiya gunagrahane. Chalavarjita mauna samadhi jusha bhalatarjita bhikara kamarusha. Ramana ninda patiya padadi hudi bhuvana. Ramana ninda patiya padadi hudi bhuvana. Chaturani chalanendriya nigrahisalu. Nipunani pararasu guna grahisalu. Chalavillada mauna samadhi jusha. Bhal chalavillada mauna samadhi stita. Nina bhala bedari pudu bhikara kamadigala. Ganapati Muni is telling that, O Ramana, you are a chatura. You are well adept in controlling these senses which is always moving. And you are Nipuna. You are a great scholar. You are adept in finding out the good qualities in people. And you are the one who is ever abiding in the Mauna Samadhi, the Samadhi of silence, and which is beyond all pretense, which is beyond all chala. You are that. Ramana, you are, sings Ganapati Muni. And we see that how Ramana has guided many seekers just through his silence. No word spoken, ever abiding in his silence, he has guided them. And I have heard Nanda Kumarji in one of the readings where he reminded us that how Ramana is most sensitive. He was so sensitive. He always told about if there is some truth which is going to hurt them in some way, he used to remain silent. He used to abide in silence and show his love. And we see how Ramana was adept in understanding the suguna of people, even when poisonous snakes crawled over his body. And devotees with great fear asked, Ramana, how does it feel, Bhagavan? And Bhagavan smiled and replied, it feels cool and soft, but only when the snakes moves around my feet, I feel a little ticklish. And the devotees, how can we be scared of the snakes? And Ramana says, why should one be scared? They come on their own accord and go. If we don't hurt them, they don't hurt us too. Even he saw the suguna in the poisonous snakes too. He never used to accept the complaints by devotees. Once a foreigner who had an attendant, a small attendant, young attendant with her, so she came and was complaining to Ramana, saying that I had this wonderful attendant, so I used to trust her so much, but she has taken away all my money and the jewels and she has ran away from here. And she was complaining to Ramana, and Ramana smiled at her and told, oh, you have lost such a good attendant just because of your money. So he never used to take complaint of even a person who was robbed. And we heard from Kalarani Akka that the incident of the robbers who came to Ramanashramam, A.R. Natarajan Mama in Timeless in Time reports that this incident is well reported because it's available as a FIR in the Tiruvannamalai police station. But when Ramana used to narrate many incidents in his life when the devotees asked or when situation came up, but he has never ever repeated this. He has never told this incident of robbery at Ramanashramam ever, because he used to see that he understood that they were misguided men, and there was no need of repeating that. He abided to his Mauna Samadhi. Kalarani Akka, I remember her telling one beautiful story where there was one devotee who was very, very notorious. I mean, who was creating a lot of a problem in Ramanashramam, and he did not have even one qualities to speak about. He had all. He was an embodiment of all the bad qualities one would think of. So the devotees were really frustrated, and when they had great difficulty with this devotee. But one day the devotee, as the time had to come, he expired, and they reported to Bhagavan Ramana, and they were all eagerly awaiting. Now Bhagavan Ramana will tell something bad about this devotee. They were all eagerly waiting, and Ramana, when he heard this news about passing away of this devotee, then he used to say, how such a great one. He used to wear this white shirt which was so pure white. How wonderful it was. That was the guna that Ramana saw, and he told his devotees, and the devotees were wondering how Ramana can see good even in a person who is so bad. And when to talk about Ramana's holding on to the silence, there was one devotee who came from a scholar who came from Kerala, and he used to give lectures in the presence of Ramana in the Liberty Hall, where he used to say, I have gone to this ashram, I have learned that, I have done this, I have done that, and various things. So every day he used to come and give a huge lecture of things that he has learned all over the places that he has gone. And this happened for 2-3 days. And after that, when he came to the Sannidhi of Bhagavan Ramana, he became silent, and Bhagavan Ramana turned to his devotees and told, oh, this Swami has just become like me. Just become like this Swami. He has also got back to his silence. So that was the beauty of Ramana, who saw goodness in everyone and never accepted any complaint. Even when devotees in the discussion, they spoke about the Yaksha Prashna, where the Prashna is that Yudhishthira asked by Yaksha, what is the wonder that you see in this world? And Yudhishthira says the wonder is that the people see death happening every day in and out, but everybody feels that they are immortal. And Ramana saw the positive side of this, and he told, yes, that is the truth, that the I that we actually are is deathless. Only this body is the one which dies. The I, the Atma, the self in us is deathless. That is why everyone has this great belief that they are immortal. So he saw the positive side, he saw the Suguna in everything. And when we wonder, how is it that Ramana is able to see this Suguna in every one of us? Kameshwar Mama, when he first read out his English translation of Aksharamalai, he told, this is no big contribution that I have done. It is like a small baby, a child who scribbles something on the paper and shows it to his mother and says, Amma, I have written a beautiful flower just for you. And the mother sees it, and with lot of love she says, aha, my little child has written such a beautiful flower, and she may frame it also, and whoever comes to the presence to her house, and mother will show, look at this, my little child has written such a beautiful flower. And that is the love of Ramana, motherly love, which makes Ramana sees the Suguna in us. And for one who has become one with Arunachala, one who was with the Arunachala himself, he saw everything as that one power. When asked, he told, a Jnani does not have any others. So he only saw one self, the one consciousness which is pervading in all. So he could love everyone as that Arunachala Tattva and see the Suguna in us and ever abide in that silence which is beyond all words. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, who shines as the self in all beings. Bhagavan has been coming to us through various words, through various sounds, and filling us with his presence. And he allows us to continue our meditation on the Ashtottara, Ramana Ashtottara, Shata Namavali, the 108 names for worshipping him, composed by Sri Vishwanatha Swami. And we are, by Bhagavan's grace, meditating on the very first Nama, Om Mahasena Mahumshena Jataya Namaha. He is born. Bhagavan has been born. Bhagavan has been born. Within us, he is born. The moment we become aware of something called Ramana, we can say he is born within us. Who is he born as? The great power of Subramanya, says Vishwanatha Swami. So we were meditating on the story of the Skanda, the purpose of the birth of Subramanya, and how he was born to kill Sura Padma, the great Asura, who is ruling the entire world with his two brothers and his kingdom. And he has actually, what is his kingdom? He has actually captured the kingdom of the Devas, he has captured the kingdom of the gods, and in that Mahendrapuri, he is now guarded by the mountain Krauncha, and he has taken a blessing that he cannot be destroyed by anybody other than Maheshwara. And he can be destroyed by the combined Shakti of Maheshwara and Devi. So he is very happy that he will never be killed and he is ruling there. But we saw that Subramanya has advanced with the celestial army, rather than the army of Ganas, and he has destroyed the Krauncha hill and he has killed Tarakasura. So we saw that just as an understanding of the Purana with our own spiritual journey, our own internal journey, we felt that the Krauncha is all the past, which keeps coming back to us. So huge it is, millions of vasanas, so many, all with a single throw of the javelin, single throw of the question, who am I? It is all destroyed, because every jada is destroyed by the question, who am I? So the Krauncha is destroyed. And next, who is Tarakasura? We said that for us to understand that our sense of identification apparently manifests in three ways. It manifests as the actor, the doer in the waking state. I do, I must do, I must do this, I must do this, I must do this, I must achieve this, I must finish doing this. So it's constantly in the form of action, doership we call it. So this can be the Taraka. In the sense, we believe that is Taraka. We don't believe the self is Taraka. We believe that action is Taraka. That action will take us across our difficulty to the goal, which is the self, which is joy. That is what we believe. But Bhagavan said, no, that is not the case. Phalamashashvatam gati nirodhakam. It will actually make you fall into Vinay Kadal Vittidu Mundi Para Vidutara Lilai Undi Para. It will not liberate you. It will not liberate you. Do not hold on to action. So when we start meditating on that, what happens? We recognize that action is actually powerless. Gati Nirodhakam. It will not give us joy, because what action does is only lead to further action. Action supports more and more of action. If you do one action, we'll think that that action will get over, it will not get over. One of the people with whom we have had many sharings, Subrai Sharma, he would say, somebody thinks, oh my God, I did not get married. Such a big problem, he says. Then Subrai Sharma will say, if you don't get married, one problem, that you have not got married. If you get married, many problems will start along with the marriage. Oh, all the things you have to look after now. Two people's prarabdhas have to come together. Two people have to get together. Then further, oh, I don't have children. I don't have children, that is one problem. If you get children, you have to bring them up, you have to see to it that they are good, they are happy. Further, they will have children, they should also be happy. Where is the end of the karma? Where is the end of the problem? He would say. Meaning to say, this is the example he would give, but anything we start, we may think we don't have a house. If we build a house, we will be all right. But once we build a house, we have to take care of the house. So many things will be there to take care of in the house. So each and every karma only leads to further karma, even if it is a good karma. Somebody was joking actually. See, in RMCL, first Ramananjali cassette came. We are now celebrating 40 years of Ramananjali. In a big way, we want to celebrate it. But what happens? One Ramananjali cassette, Srimati Sulochana Natarajan thought, oh, all the songs have to be put into that because this is the end. But did it end there? No, it went on to 100 cassettes. So many translations came. So many new ideas came. So many people started writing poems. Then Sulochana Natarajan herself said, oh Muruganar, I have finished. Let me do Sadhu Om Swami's songs. Let me do Suddhananda Bharati's songs. Let me do somebody else's songs. All have been in Bhagwan's presence. So that it keeps on expanding. So if we think that is the goal, we get caught in it. It becomes an asura. But if we are understanding Bhagwan's teachings and we are able to Ishwararpitam Nichaya Kritam, when we recognize that action will not lead us, and when we recognize even further that I am not at all the doer, what power do I have to do anything or to achieve anything? Karturagniya phalam prapyate. It is only by the Ishvara's will that the action is giving its fruits. Kartanada alayal kanmam payantaragiradu. Not by my own effort is meaningless. So what happens? Taraka is conquered. How? With the simplicity of Muruga, he conquers the vastness of that karma by saying, you are not capable of a single action, not capable of a single movement, is not possible. So then Taraka is conquered. Who comes next? If we think that in our sadhana, if we think we have surrendered all our actions to Bhagavan, we have surrendered all our thoughts also to Bhagavan, because thoughts are actions, then we have finished our sadhana. What happens in the subtle experience of the mind? What happens in the dream state? That happens even in the waking state. That is, I may not remain as an actor. In my dream, I do not I perform any actions because my body is lying on the bed. But where is the action happening? It is happening in the mind. In what way? Is there any physical enactment of those scenes? There is nothing. But it's happening in my mind. And who am I at that time? I am the knower. I know things. I may not do anything, but still I know. In the sadhana, what happens? When we begin to watch our thoughts, we say, I will not move, I will not run with the running mind. So the mind will, I am not an actor anymore. Let the mind keep running. I am going to remain still. I am going to be watching my thoughts. Who do I remain as at that time? I remain as the knower of the thoughts, the king of the jungle. The Simha Mukha is that brother who comes, the king, because the sense of knowing makes us feel so powerful. The thought that I know makes us feel very powerful. So he is Simha Mukha. Because the Simha can frighten even the elephant, that huge elephant. It gets a dream of a lion, it trembles. It's called Simha Sopna, and a lion, I believe, can kill an elephant by just, sometimes if it decides to kill an elephant, it will jump straight, it will leap at the forehead of the elephant and finish it off. So the Simha is the most powerful. There is the power of knowledge, which is what is the Simha Mukha. So that is to be faced next by Muruga's veil is addressing the Simha Mukha, and Simha Mukha surrenders to Muruga. He says, Sharanagati. So when I recognize that this, who knows? Bhagavan says, who am I? Who knows? Is this knowledge springing from me? Who is it that knows? When I ask, who am I? Automatically it delves into its source and it recognizes that the knowledge is coming from the Chit Shakti, that Shakti, the Devi. That Chit Shakti Ramanesha Devame Devam, says Sadhu Swami. That Shakti is the source of consciousness. It recognizes it and it is allowed to become the vehicle of that consciousness. So Simha Mukha became the vehicle of Jagan Mata, the Prakriti. So the knowledge, when we recognize that consciousness is springing from that, knowledge is springing from the consciousness, it surrenders. But still there is the Sat, I who know that this knowledge is coming from the self. Who is that I? That still remains, the root still remains, Surapadma still remains to be tackled. By Bhagavan's grace, we will continue to look at it in the next sharing. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We have the chanting of Aksharamana Male by Srimati Radha and Vallabh.
अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचला अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचला வீடு விட்டி துள வீடு குக்க பயவுன் வீடு காட்டினை அருள் அருணாச்சலா வேடி விட்டேனுன் செயல் வெறுத்திடாதுன் அருள் வேடி விட்டென்னை காருணாச்சலா வேதாந்தத்தே வேரற விளங்கும் வேத பொருள் அருள் அருணாச்சலா வைதலை வாழ்த்தா வைத்தருட்குடியா வைத்தென்னை விடாதருள் அருணாச்சலா அம்பு வில்லாலி போல் அன்புரு உன்னில் என்னை அன்பா கரை தருள் அருணாச்சலா அருணை என்று நயன் அருட்கணி பட்டேன் உன் அருள் வல்லை தப்புமோ அருணாச்சலா சிந்தே தருப்பட சிலந்தி போல் கட்டி சிறையீட்டுண்டனை அருணாச்சலா அன்போடு நாமம் கேளன்பர்த்தம் அன்பரு கண்பனாயிட அருள் அருணாச்சலா என் போலும் தீனரை இன்புற காத்துணி என்னாலும் வாழ்ந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா என் குரு கண்பர்த்தம் இன் சொற்கள் செவியும் என் பொன்மொழி கொள அருள் அருணாச்சலா ஒரு மாயாம்பூதர புன் சொல்லை நன் சொல்ல பொறுத்தருள் இஷ்டம் பின் அருணாச்சலா மாலை அளித்தருணாச்சல ரமண என் மாலை அணிந்த அருணாச்சலா மாலை அணித்தருணாச்சல ரமணயன் மாலை அணிந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி அக்ஷரமண மாலை வாழி நமோ ரமண.
Namo Ramana. We conclude the satsang with Ashtotra Puja to Bhagavan. This will be performed at Sri Subramaniam's altar and it will be chanted by Vaibhavji and by Uma and Ashwini.
नमो रमण. भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितम् श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योमि मात्रम् भुवनं समस्तम् गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरम् चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि. ॐ महासेन महोंशेन जाताय नमः. ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः. ॐ गुरवे नमः. ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः. ॐ महौजसे नमः. ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः. ॐ जगद्दितावताराय नमः. ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोत्थिताय नमः. ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः. ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः. ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः. ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः. ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः. ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः. ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः. ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः. ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः. ॐ तीव्राय नमः. ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः. ॐ इन्दुमौळिना पितृमते नमः. ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः. ॐ तपोमयाय नमः. ॐ उदासीनाय नमः. ॐ महायोगिने नमः. ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः. ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः. ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसम्रम्भाय नमः. ॐ सुसन्द्रशे नमः. ॐ सवित्रे नमः. ॐ स्थिराय नमः. ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः. ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः. ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः. ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः. ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः. ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञानाय तत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजतचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः।
ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानामाराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ मृच्छान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणात् बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणाद्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः।
यस्थाणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रह सुप्रवाह विवशस्तादाज्ञभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्य गभीर नित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनास्येकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदम् लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षे नमो महर्षे नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षे नमो महर्षे दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संज्ञे दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संज्ञे सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ಬ್ರಹ್ಮನಿಷ್ಠ ಸಮದರ್ಶಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಪೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಪೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಖ್ಯೆಯೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಖ್ಯೆಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की जय।